I'd like to say a few things. I watched your presentation, and I just think that we need an alternative. I grew up in apartheid South Africa, and I witnessed the inequalities in our country, and the inequalities are getting worse. And I studied in the United States in State College, and so I went to the Philadelphia School District where I did some work in the 6 districts. And I just think that this I'm really delighted to be here because the way the world is structured at the moment, and what's really happening in the world is that education has become secondary to money, to politics, and to power. And it has relegated education, and lots of children across the world are suffering. And therefore, I think whilst the literacy focus is the most important focus, and I'm delighted to be involved, and I think your ideas are visionary, I think that this group could also act as a think tank for poverty and respond to poverty across the world. I mean, if we have heard about Chicago and and other places in the United States, in the UK, in Africa, in Mexico, and there is no voice for poor people. And so when I grew up in the apartheid system, and the country became a democracy. And I theorized education over the last many years. And I think that education departments reproduce the status quo. Balls and Ginter told us in 1976 that schools reproduce the status quo. I think schools do reproduce the status quo, but I think education departments reproduce the status quo. And we have to get involved there as well, in terms of the policy development and the policy implementation. I said this when I spoke to you the other day. And I think that we need to respond to poverty in the world. There has to be a voice, because the education narrative is being dominated by people who have vested interest in growing their business and making more money, and at the expense of millions of children across the world. And so, there's a way in which people are silenced, and working class parents don't have a voice in the world because they aren't able to articulate themselves, and they aren't able to contest the power dynamics in virtually every country in the world. And so I just think this forum and this organization has so much of potential, and I'm so delighted to be involved, because I think there's a lot of work for us to do in this time that we have in this universe. Thank you, Sunita.